The sun hung low over the dusty plains of Montana, casting long shadows across the Harlan ranch like fingers reaching for the horizon. Jake Harlan, a man weathered by 40 years of hard living, sat on the porch of his weathered cabin, his boots propped up on the rail. His Colt revolver lay across his lap, a constant companion in these lawless times. The year was 1885, and the West was still wild, full of outlaws, rustlers, and ghosts from the past. Jake's ranch wasn't much. A few hundred acres of scrubland, a herd of cattle that barely scraped by, and a barn that creaked in the wind. But it was his, earned through sweat and bullets after he'd left the trail-driving life behind. He'd come here to forget, to bury the memories of a marriage gone sour and a woman who'd torn his heart out. Sarah. His ex-wife. The name still tasted like bile on his tongue. As the evening breeze stirred the sagebrush, Jake spotted a rider approaching from the east. A lone figure on a bay horse, kicking up a thin trail of dust. He squinted against the glare, his hand instinctively drifting to the grip of his pistol. Strangers weren't welcome this far out, especially not after dark. But as the rider drew nearer, something about the posture seemed familiar, slender, graceful, not the hulking form of a bandit. The horse stopped at the gate, and the rider dismounted. It was a woman, her face hidden under a wide-brimmed hat. She tied the reins to the post and walked toward the porch with purposeful steps. Jake stood, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. "Eliza," he rasped, scarcely believing his eyes. She removed her hat, letting her auburn hair cascade down her shoulders. Eliza Thornton, Sarah's younger sister, stared back at him with those piercing green eyes that had always seemed to see right through him. She was 28 now, but time had been kind. Her features sharp and beautiful, hardened by whatever trials she'd faced since he'd last seen her. "Jake," she said softly, stopping at the foot of the steps. "It's been a long time." "What in God's name are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice gruff to mask the turmoil inside. The last time he'd seen Eliza was at the divorce proceedings in Cheyenne, 5 years ago. Sarah had accused him of abandonment, of being more married to the trail than to her. But Jake knew the truth. Sarah had been unfaithful, tangled up with a silver-tongued gambler named Royce Blackwood. And Eliza, she'd been there, a silent witness, her loyalty torn between her sister and the man she'd once called brother-in-law. Eliza met his gaze steadily. "I came to forgive you both." The words hung in the air like smoke from a gunshot. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Forgive? After all that had happened? He gestured to the porch chair. "You best sit down and explain yourself, 'cause that don't make a lick of sense." She climbed the steps and took the seat, her riding skirt dusty from the journey. Jake poured her a tin cup of coffee from the pot on the stove inside, handing it to her before settling back into his own chair. The ranch was quiet, save for the distant lowing of cattle and the whisper of the wind. Eliza sipped the coffee, wincing at its bitterness. "Sarah's dead, Jake. Died last winter in Denver. Consumption took her." Jake's jaw tightened. He'd heard rumors through the grapevine, cowboys talked, but hearing it confirmed hit him like a stampede. "I'm sorry," he muttered, though the words felt hollow. "What happened to Royce?" Her eyes darkened. "He left her years ago, after the money ran out. She was alone at the end." Jake nodded slowly, staring out at the fading light. "And you? Why come all this way? Forgiveness ain't something you ride 100 miles for." Eliza set the cup down, her hands folding in her lap. "Because there's more to the story than you know. Sarah didn't betray you, Jake. Not like you think." He laughed bitterly. "I saw them together, Eliza. In that saloon in Laramie." Her laughing at his jokes, his hand on her arm. "And the letters I found later." "Those letters weren't what they seemed," she interrupted, her voice urgent. "Royce was blackmailing her. Our family had a secret, Jake. Something from before you married Sarah. Jake leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. The West was full of secrets, buried gold, hidden identities, old feuds that simmered like coals under ash. What kind of secret? Eliza glanced around, as if the empty plains might be listening. Our father wasn't who we said he was. He was part of the Dalton gang, back in '72. Robbed a bank in Coffeyville and got away with it. The money's buried somewhere, but he died before telling anyone where. Royce found out somehow. Threatened to turn Sarah in as an accessory if she didn't help him find it. Jake's mind reeled. The Dalton gang? Infamous outlaws, gunned down in a botched robbery. If Sarah's father had been one of them. Why didn't she tell me? She was ashamed. And scared. Royce made her meet him, pretend to be friendly. Those letters were codes, clues she was forced to give. But you found them and left before she could explain. Anger flared in Jake's chest. She could have trusted me. I would have handled Royce. Eliza's eyes softened. She loved you, Jake. But pride got in the way. And I knew about it. I should have told you, but Sarah swore me to secrecy. That's why I'm here, to forgive you for leaving, and to ask forgiveness for my silence. The confession hung between them, heavy as a loaded rifle. Jake stood, pacing the porch. The stars were emerging now, pinpricks in the velvet sky. Part of him wanted to send her away, to let the past stay buried. But another part, the lonely cowboy who'd spent years regretting his hasty departure, felt a spark of hope. All right, he said finally. You can stay the night. We'll talk more in the morning. Barnes got a stall for your horse. Eliza nodded gratefully. As she led her mount away, Jake watched her, memories flooding back. Eliza had always been the quieter sister, the one with a sharp mind and a kind heart. During his marriage to Sarah, she'd visited often, helping with chores and sharing stories by the fire. There'd been a spark between them once, unspoken, but he'd buried it deep. That night, sleep evaded Jake. He tossed in his bunk, haunted by visions of Sarah, her laughter, her tears. And now Eliza, stirring up the dust of old wounds. By dawn, he'd decided, if there was truth to her words, he'd help her uncover it. Maybe find that buried treasure, lay the ghosts to rest. Over breakfast. Biscuits and bacon fried over the fire, Eliza revealed more. Sarah left a journal. In it, she wrote clues about the money. Father hid it near the old mission in Wyoming, but Royce couldn't decipher it. He came after me last year, thinking I knew. Jake's fork paused mid-air. Royce is still alive? She nodded. And dangerous. He's got a gang now, rustlers mostly. I think he's trailing me, Jake. That's another reason I came, to warn you. A chill settled over the cabin. Jake strapped on his gun belt. Let him come. I've faced worse. But as the day wore on, trouble arrived sooner than expected. Jake was out mending fences when he spotted dust clouds on the horizon, riders, 5 of them, galloping hard toward the ranch. He spurred his horse back to the cabin, shouting for Eliza. Get inside. Bar the door. She emerged with a rifle in hand, Sarah's old Winchester. I can shoot, Jake. The riders thundered up, led by a man in a black duster, his face scarred and sneering. Royce Blackwood. Jake recognized him instantly, the gambler's charm replaced by an outlaw's menace. Well, Royce drawled, reining in his horse. If it ain't the runaway husband. And little Eliza, all grown up. Jake stepped forward, hand hovering over his colt. This is my land, Blackwood. State your business or ride on. Royce laughed, his men fanning out. Business? The Thorntons owe me. Old man Thornton stole from the Daltons, my kin were in that gang. The money's mine by rights. Eliza here knows where it is. I don't, Eliza shot back, her rifle steady. And even if I did, you'd never see a dime. Royce's eyes narrowed. Hand over the journal, girl, or we'll burn this place to the ground. Jake's mind raced. The journal, Eliza hadn't mentioned bringing it. But before he could speak, one of Royce's men drew, a twitchy kid with a itchy trigger finger. The shot cracked the air, grazing Jake's arm. Chaos erupted. Jake drew and fired, dropping the kid from his saddle. Eliza's rifle boomed, hitting another outlaw in the shoulder. Royce's gang returned fire, bullets splintering the porch rails. Get to cover. Jake yelled, shoving Eliza behind a water trough. He rolled, firing twice more, taking down a horse and sending its rider sprawling. Royce cursed, wheeling his mount. This ain't over, Harlan. We'll be back. The outlaws retreated, dragging their wounded. Jake winced, blood soaking his sleeve. Eliza tore a strip from her skirt, binding the wound. You all right? He nodded grimly. Flesh wound. But they'll return with more men. We need to move. Eliza pulled a leather-bound book from her saddlebag, the journal. Sarah's clues. If we find the money first, we can use it to buy them off, or hire help. Jake skimmed the pages. Cryptic notes about the shadow of the cross at noon, 3 paces from the Devil's Thorn. The old mission in Wyoming, abandoned since the Indian Wars. It was a 2-day ride, through rough country infested with bandits and Comanche raids. We'll go, he decided. But it's dangerous. You sure? Her eyes met his, fierce and determined. For Sarah. For us. They packed light, bedrolls, jerky, ammunition, and rode out at dusk, hoping to slip away unseen. The trail wound through canyons and over ridges, the moon lighting their way. As they camped by a stream, Jake built a small fire, the flames dancing in Eliza's eyes. Tell me about after I left, he said softly. She poked at the coals. Sarah tried to find you, but you vanished into the drives. She moved to Denver, worked as a seamstress. I stayed with her till the end. She regretted everything, Jake. Whispered your name in her fever. Guilt twisted in his gut. I was a fool. Should have listened. Eliza reached across, her hand on his. We all were. But maybe this is our chance to make it right. The touch sent a warmth through him, awakening feelings long dormant. In the firelight, she looked like Sarah, but different, stronger, wiser. As they lay under the stars, Jake wondered if forgiveness could lead to something more. Dawn brought peril. Tracks crossed their path, fresh boot prints, horse droppings. Royce was following. They pushed harder, the horses foaming at the bit. By noon the next day, the old mission loomed ahead, crumbling adobe walls, a bell tower casting a long shadow. The cross, Eliza murmured, consulting the journal. Shadow at noon, points to the spot. The sun was high, the tower's shadow stretching like an arrow toward a cluster of thorny bushes, Devil's Claw, they called it. 3 paces from the largest one, Jake dug with his knife, the earth yielding after years untouched. Clink. Metal on wood. They unearthed a small chest, rusted but intact. Inside, gold coins, gleaming in the sunlight. Dalton's haul, enough to buy a new life. But joy was short-lived. Hoofbeats echoed through the canyon. Royce and his gang, now 8 strong, surrounded them. Hand it over, Royce snarled, dismounting with a drawn pistol. Jake stood, chest in hand. This ends now, Blackwood. A standoff. Wind whistled through the ruins. Then, a twitch, Royce's man fired. Jake dove, shielding Eliza. Bullets flew. He returned fire, dropping 2 outlaws. Eliza grabbed the rifle from her saddle, picking off another. Royce charged, tackling Jake. They rolled in the dust, fists flying. Royce's knife flashed, slicing Jake's cheek. Jake headbutted him, grabbing the blade and turning it. A shot rang out, Eliza, standing over them, smoke curling from her barrel. Royce slumped, a hole in his chest. The remaining outlaws fled, leaderless and broken. Jake staggered up, bloodied but alive. Eliza threw her arms around him, tears streaming. It's over. They buried the dead shallow, left the gold hidden for now. Riding back to the ranch, the weight of the past lifted. Days turned to weeks, Eliza stayed, helping rebuild. Forgiveness bloomed into love, tentative at first, then fierce. One evening, as they watched the sunset, Jake took her hand. Sarah would have wanted this. Eliza smiled. She did. In her journal's last page. Tell Jake I forgive him. And Eliza, be happy. Under the Montana sky, they found peace, and each other. The West moved on, but their story endured, a tale of redemption in a land of second chances.